Well, I don't know if you have ever worked with like equipment moving companies before, but that is kind of a typical thing that I'm doing at my job from time to time. The movers come in, and a lot of times the two safest ways to move things, say the one safest way to move things, is to strap it and lift it from above where you've got positive straps. And that's why, industrial equipment typically will have I-beams, like 4 of them on corners of stuff, right, to lift it up. You've got the rigging, typically it's going to be like straps or chain, or a combination of both sometimes. But the thing that you don't want to do is try to lift up from the bottom, especially something tall and something that's tens of thousands of pounds, right? The next best thing to do is what's called skating. So skating is when you put like a skate, in my case, I'll show you what I've got here to skate these in there. But you put a skate up under one side of it or the front of it, and then you lift it from the back in a manner that, again, you want to strap it if you can and lift from the back, and then you're just pushing through, the move of the equipment or machinery or whatever it is. So, taking that and applied it right here to skating these big I-beams into the shop here. So let's take a look at what I got. They do actually make some skates, and maybe I can find a picture and throw one up here. But yeah, typically your skate is going to have like a singular wheel on each end, a long one, maybe 12-inch long wheel with bushings, and then it's going to be like a metal frame, like a piece of C-channel, and then on top of it, it's going to have a circular pad. So if you're looking at getting a equipment moving skate, that's going to be what they look like. I just went down to Harbor Freight. They actually had these on sale. I think they were, I don't know, 40 or 50 bucks or something for the pair. The weight rating on them is fine. It's, I think it was 2,500-ish per skate. This is actually a wheel dolly, to put your car tire, jack it up, and then set your car down on it, one wheel support here. And then I also went with chain. Chain is a really good thing to use here because it is a static load, it's not a dynamic load. Chains are bad for dynamic loads where stuff is kind of, bouncing, or you're putting pressure on it. And anyways, the beauty of the chain is it's completely adjustable in length, where straps are one length. I did get some straps. I'm going to need some straps when I go to lift up this stuff and set it in place off the front of these forks. I'm going to use a strap here and a strap there, and I've even got I've got another implement we're going to be using here, but this is the way I'm doing it for this. I've got a couple of these skates. Now I can come in here, set this one down, and just roll it into place. So again, this may not be like the perfect way to do it, and I could use the tractor to bring it all the way in there using the skate method, but since it's not real critical and these aren't real heavy, I can lift it up, myself on the end and move it over and set it down. This 24-inch piece, 24-foot piece. The 30-foot pieces of 12-inch, that's a different story. I'm pretty much going to have to bring those up here, set them down on the ground, elevated, come over to them, strap them. No, I'm going to have to do the same thing. I'm going to have to skate it in here, turn it 90 degrees, and yeah, then have it cribbed, and then strap it, and then lift it into place. Working out all the logistics for this mezzanine is becoming a little difficult, but yeah. Even though this doesn't have, those big roller wheels like the real skates do, again, this is all fresh build, no cracks or potholes in the concrete, And so it's real easy just to skate it in here like a skateboard. Yeah, so these are 24-foot pieces, and I've got a 25-foot clear span. You can see between the uprights there. It's an engineered building, so they have that taper to them. But they stick out off the wall, I think at the top there, like 24-inch, something like that. And where I'm going to be putting these is on top of those 105 runners, just off of the seat purling. So down there at, the seat purling is 8 inches, right, off of the R panel. So those uprights that I made all those butt plates for, welded all those together, that's right up against that 8-inch, and then this is actually going to string between the uprights. On that far end there, that's 8-inch, so that seat purling fits in between that I-beam. So the upright that I've got there is going to be standalone. I'm going to tie it into that structure, the building structure. But you're not supposed to just like weld on a structure inside of the structure, right? It's not engineered for that. So all I'm doing here is like outside of what would be acceptable practice, I guess. But I'm going to be, for the most part, fully supporting this mezzanine structure outside of this structure. I'm just tying into it for additional rigidity for both the building and the mezzanine. I think both benefit from being tied together, right? I've got I've got 4 uprights down the... Yeah, I would bring you in here to show you a little bit closer, but like, it's weird. All of a sudden when I get in here and turn the camera on, it gets real dark, real fast. So you can see pretty good what's going on. But yeah, the plan is to tie in the mezzanine with the building, but the mezzanine is going to be a freestanding unit of its own. It's just going to be tied in, maybe with a couple pieces of angle or pipe or something. I'm going to weld to the structure and fasten to the structure where I can. But yeah, the mezzanine is going to be pretty much standalone. It's got 4 uprights in the center. It's going to have 1, 2, 3 uprights on either wall. And then there's going to be 1 set of the 30-footers that's going to be supported in the center, but then fully supported, I think, on one of the uprights where it's a doubled upright. And I'll show you what I'm talking about there. Yeah, see what happens here? I bring the camera inside and all of a sudden, like, can you even see me? I'm completely pitch dark. Anyways, up around this structure right here, it's got a piece of, I think it's 10-inch I-beam around the inside of the frame, right? So it's got the main uprights coming up either side, and then outside of that is another piece of I-beam, and that's tied together in an L shape. So what I'm going to do there is bring a piece of this 6-inch, weld one piece of the 6-inch off of one side, weld another piece of the 6-inch off the other side, have those tied together and welded together, and then set my main runner that's going to run widthwise across there, just right on top of that. I think that's going to be plenty stable, and it's going to tie those 2 pieces together better, and it's going to tie in with the rest of the mezzanine, right? So it's going to be basically stronger overall. If you think I'm wrong or silly or stupid or whatever, down there in the comments, let it go. But that's the way I'm looking at it, even though they said, the place that designed the building said, basically, don't affix anything to the structure. You know, I think they were thinking more like a gantry crane, or like if you were trying to suspend something off of the ceiling. I mean, obviously that's, but I don't see how adding additional support structures, you know, maybe they just didn't get what I was talking about. Anyways, let's move some more steel. The wood stove is in full swing here. We're sitting right there, about 500 degrees on the stovepipe. Of course, it goes straight up, but yeah, this unit here, hard to see, I know, but it is 3 foot deep, 4 foot high, 2 foot wide, and you can see there the door is not exactly sealed. So I can basically close it all the way up, except for the secondary burn tubes, and it burns right there at 500 with that little crack in the door. Works out pretty nice. Yeah, there's that structure I was talking about. Again, so hard to see. Okay, yeah, so here is the 24-foot piece, and you can see, again, between this upright and that upright is 25 feet, 25-foot clear span. So, 24 inches, I'm gonna have these columns, and I've got one in the corner there. You can't see it because it's too dark. But I'm gonna have two columns here. I'm gonna have one column in the corner, basically supporting this, and it's gonna tie between that column and this column. And then I'm gonna have another column underneath this piece to support it as well. But the I-beam running across is gonna be, there's gonna be 4 per side, and they're gonna be every 16.7 feet or something like that. Because this is a 100-foot building. I'm running it to the halfway point, so yeah, just about 16 3/4 of a foot all the way through there. So that lands, if that's 25, 20 is going to be here, and then 16 3/4 is somewhere here-ish. It may be even like kind of right over the door, but pretty close anyway. I think it's going to be right in here somewhere. And I'm going to have a column directly underneath of it. And I'm going to have a column directly underneath every place that I can where it makes sense. But I can't have a column in front of the door or in front of a window or whatever. So it's going to be close. And then I'm going to have these 1-foot pieces. I'm going to have these 1-foot pieces welded and tied in to the column, right? And what I'm going to do there, again, is basically just have it clamped and underneath this piece of W-beam. So I'm going to lift it up, set it on the columns, and then come in there with that 1-foot piece, slide it up against the column, clamp it down, weld it out, and call it a day. So. So I'm going to move these 24-foot ones in one at a time. And then the other ones I'm moving in 2 at a time. But yeah, you can get a little better idea of kind of a conceptual design with the columns, running straight through the middle. Of course, I'm in the process of the erection of the building, erection of the mezzanine, and anyway, you can kind of get an idea of what it's going to look like there with the columns. I've got my 105-inch columns laying along the wall there, where they're going to go, kind of, and then the columns through the middle here. So let's keep at it. Nice sunny day today. These come and go during the wintertime for us. Every once in a while it's 60, well shoot, it's almost 70 today. Every once in a while you get a 70-degree day, and then we're back down, into the 30s, 40s like everybody else. But the trailer here and moving this I-beam, it's a juggling match, right? Trying to figure out how to do all this stuff. It's really nice having the flatbed gooseneck where I can lay them diagonally across there for 2 reasons. One, I can pick up like on the end. So the way that I got these cribbed up was to come pick up on the end, slide something underneath, then go up to the front, pick up on the front, of course that was overhanging, and then lift up and then put some more cribbing in there. But let's see if we can get one of these picked up and moved. these are the 16 and 3/4 or 16.77, I think is 25. Or I'm sorry, 50 divided by 3, whatever that distance is. That's what these are. 198.5 inches. 198.5 takes into account the 8 inches we're losing off of the purling up against the R panel, and then that is center point to center point. So I've got some that are a little bit longer, but 198.5 is center point to center point between all of the uprights. Of course, that's how I laid them out when I put them in the ground. So these are a little bit lighter and easier to move around, and again, everything is fairly easy, and except a little bit, and then you can just lift it up a little bit and you're good to go. Alright, man, I have got to get all of these I-beams skated in here. Some of the longer ones, again, is a little bit more difficult to get it finagled up in here where I can get it set down on the concrete on one side, and then of course trying to move the back end of a 24-foot piece is much more difficult. So I'm going to get after it. If you would please, to support the channel, go to my Patreon. I also have Instagram, telehandler, mail cloud. No, just kidding. I don't have any of that stuff. If you want to support the channel, just subscribe, hit that thumbs up, and get out there, have you some man time too.